Hi again. Here we are to talk about JavaScript. In the last example, we loaded some data JavaScript from an array that we stored here. And then we looped through all the items in our array, right? And now we need to do a little bit of setup so we can, actually get the data from the array to show up on the page. So let's complete our document here. So we should probably have the rest of these tags. Okay, so I'll add the doc type. I'll set up the HTML tag. I'll include the head tag, the title tag, the body tag, and I'm going to cut the script tags here and paste them at the bottom of the body tag. And then let me beautify all that. There we go. That looks nice, right? Okay, so we need to do another thing here. Since we're talking about jQuery, I'd like to include jQuery with this project, and I actually have jQuery in this other. I have all the link to the jQuery file here in this script tag. So I'm just going to copy that out of the other project. You can follow this example or the previous example, and add jQuery however you like, right? But I'm going to do it this way. So now that I've got jQuery, there we go, right? So let's imagine now that we want to build something. Like, let's imagine we want to build a menu. Okay, so we want to build a menu that has, a list of all the titles that are in our data. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll add a div up here and give it an ID name. Okay, so I'll call it ID nav. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to put an element in here for each item that we have in our data, and the text of the element will be the title from the data. Okay, so right now we've got this loop here that loops through each item in our data, but what I want to do is I want to add an element like a tag here for each one of those items. Okay, so what we'll do, actually, I'll just leave that console log message there, but maybe we'll comment it out. We don't need to do that all the time, right? So what we'll do first is outside of our for loop here, let's add a little bit of space there, right? What we'll do is we'll make a variable. So we'll say nav content equals a string. Okay, so essentially we're just going to build a string of HTML and then insert that string between these two tags or inside this tag right here. Okay, so we'll start off with an empty tag, and then what we'll do is we'll say nav content plus equals, this means append to. So imagine it like plus, like adding something to the end of this string, right? Okay, so we'll add to the end of the string, and what I want to add is I want to add a starting tag. So I want to add, let's say, a div, right? Okay, and then I want my div to have a class name. Now remember, the attribute value that you put here, like class is an attribute, and the value of the attribute has to be quoted. And since I'm using the double quote on the outside, I must use the single quote inside these double quotes. You could have used a single quote on the outside and the double quote on the inside also, okay? But I can't use a double quote here or I'll have an error, right? It'll think that I ended my string right there, right? Like it'll think that this is the end of the string, right? Okay? So I want to give this a class name. Let's call it nav button or something, right? That way we can style these elements. Actually, I suppose we could have styled them as a child element, but I wanted to show you how to insert a class name there with the quotes, right? So anyway, so we got that. Now we need a closing tag, right? Okay, and then right in here we want to put the title, right? But I want to get the title from this data object, right? So why don't we just do this for convenience? So I'll just say title equals data bracket P, right? So this gives me the array of objects. P, bracket P gives me the object at one of the indexes. And then if I put the dot here, you can see that that brackets is actually code hinting to me here, and it says, oh, you've got a background color property, description property, an ID, and a title. I'll get the title property here, okay? And now what I want to do is I want to insert that title right here. And so what I'll need to do is I'll need to close off the string like this, right? And then use the plus signs in here to concatenate, right? So to connect this title variable here like that. And you could have actually just put this thing in here also, like that would have been fine, right? But just to make things clear, I made sort of an intermediate variable where I grabbed this value on, set it equal to a variable here on this line and then use that variable here. So, so there you go, right? And then now that we've got this, we're going to loop through, we're going to create one of these, append it to the empty string, do the loop again, and then append it to the last one. So it'll be this div, and then when we loop a second time, we'll append another div. And then after the loop, so after the curly brace here, when we're done with the loop, we're going to take the content here, the nav content, and insert it there. So what we'll do is we'll use jQuery, and we'll say nav, because that's our ID for the element here. And then we can say .html. Right, this is like the plain JavaScript inner HTML property, right? But we're using the jQuery version of it. And what we'll do is we'll insert nav content. Okay? So right now, our page should be empty. There should be nothing in nav. But when we test it after the JavaScript runs, then it should show the titles of our objects, right? Let's go get page number 4 and load it in here. And there it says Hello World in JavaScript, right? And again, that's because it's showing these two titles, and if let's inspect them too. So you can see here's my div, nav, and when I open it, I've got nav button, hello world, nav button, JavaScript, right? And the reason it's showing those is because the data.js contains 2 objects. Each has a title, hello world and JavaScript. And if we want to add another object to our data, we can paste an object here. I'll give it an ID number 3, and I'll say, how about me or something, like I'm making my I make stuff with JavaScript, right? So imagine like I'm making my portfolio, and I want to add a new page or a new area of content to my portfolio. I'll add it like this, and then the page will automatically update to show that item. Okay? So anyway, so that's a short introduction there, just getting us started on this whole JavaScript data thing, and that's kind of, I think that's enough for this video, right? So anyway, thanks for watching, and thanks.